Thank you very much for coming today. It's my pleasure and privilege and honor to introduce to you today President Sardar Masood Khan. He is the 27th President of Azad Kashmir. If you're not familiar, Azad Kashmir is on the western side of Pakistan, which is obviously next to occupied Indian Kashmir. President Khan is a former diplomat. He joined the Foreign Service of Pakistan in 1980 and went to serve at various diplomatic positions. From 2003 to 2005, he was the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He was also Pakistan's permanent representative and ambassador at the United Nations and international organizations in Geneva from 2005 to 2008. He also served as the ambassador to China between 2008 and 2012. As I said, he was also the permanent representative at the UN in New York, not Geneva, the other one was Geneva, between 2012 and 2015. Then he served as the Director General of the Institute of Strategic Studies, think tank, like ours, in Islamabad between 2015 and 2016, and he was elected as the President of the region of Azad Kashmir in August 2016. He will speak to us today about Kashmir, the historical perspective from resistance and resilience, the struggle for freedom and self-determination. Please welcome with me President Khan.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ali Arian. How do I pronounce the last name?
Al-Arian.
And students, dear students, it's a pleasure to meet you. What level are these students? They are graduate, undergrads?
All the way from undergraduate, second year, until PhD.
And who is doing PhD? And what are the subjects?
Political science.
What, please loud.
Political science.
No, but what is your
What's your
thesis?
specialty?
Specialty.
Who's working on?
Security studies.
Huh?
Security studies.
Where? Horn of Africa?
Yeah, Africa, Istanbul.
Horn of Africa. Yours.
Maybe same thing, but North Africa, the focus is on the North Africa.
North Africa.
Yes, I'm working on Islamophobia in Finland.
Islamophobia
In Finland.
in Finland.
Yeah.
Razia, what are you working on?
Civil military relation Pakistan and Turkey.
Okay.
And by more?
Civil military relations, Pakistan and Egypt.
Pakistan and Egypt. So, and how familiar are you with nuclear politics? Nuclear issues. Anybody specializing in nuclear issues?
Have you taken any courses in nuclear
No.
deterrence or nuclear
Yeah, in
policies?
Yes?
In masters, I take.
Masters?
Yeah, in masters.
Well, there was
From back in Pakistan, from National Defense University.
National Defense University. Okay. Well, I have these notes. They are thick. I'm setting them aside, and I'll have a heart-to-heart talk with you, and I'll try to keep my remarks very brief, and then I'll leave sufficient room for interaction, Q&A, and I hope that all of you would be ready with your questions when I'm finished. So start preparing now, because I'll expect you to ask questions so that we can have free-flowing interaction. Now, let me tell you that the topic that was given to me was Kashmir as the nuclear flashpoint between India and Pakistan. What you need to understand is that Kashmir is the cause of war between India and Pakistan. In international law, it is called casus belli, the cause of war, the ultimate cause of war between India and Pakistan. I mean, there are other differences. We have economic rivalry between the two countries. We also have the nuclear dimension of the relationship, because now both countries are nuclear competitors. But the real cause, the root cause, is the unresolved issue of Jammu and Kashmir. And before Pakistan and India tested nuclear weapons in 1998, India and Pakistan went to war 3 times. And all these 3 times, the cause of war, confrontation between the 2 countries, was Kashmir, the unresolved issue of Jammu and Kashmir. The Kashmir dispute has emotive or emotional or sentimental, economic, geographical, political and strategic dimensions. All these dimensions are important. But the most important dimension right now is the humanitarian dimension. I would not go back into history, and I presume that either you have done your background reading on Kashmir or you will do after I have delivered my lecture. Suffice it to say that way back in 1947, this is my interpretation, that the bulk of the Kashmiri population, in accordance with the formula for the independence of India and Pakistan, wanted to join Pakistan. But at that time, the state of Jammu and Kashmir was ruled by the Maharaja Hari Singh, and he had inclinations either to remain independent or later on to go with India. Although people say that he decided to go to India unwillingly, under coercion. But the people, the majority of the people, whose Muslim population was about 80% at that time of the entire state, wanted to be part of Pakistan. But some local Kashmiri leaders, who were quite popular, they were pro-India too. So that complicated the situation. And Kashmir, a big part of Kashmir, was annexed by force to the territory of India, to the state of India. One part of Kashmir, which is called Azad Kashmir, was liberated by its inhabitants, and some tribals from Pakistan also traveled to that region, and together they liberated a big chunk of the territory. One chunk is called Gilgit-Baltistan, the other is called Azad Kashmir. So Kashmir remains divided since 1947. What is to be understood is that for the past 71 years, India has tried everything under the sun to permanently annex the territory of Jammu and Kashmir with its state, but it has failed in that endeavor. It used brute force, it used economic blandishments, it also tried to raise local political parties to support their point of view. It tried to project Kashmiris as terrorists and militants, and it tried to isolate Pakistan diplomatically so that it can weaken the cause of Kashmir, because Pakistan supports the right to self-determination of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. India has failed. Its failure is manifest from the fact that in Kashmir today, the entire valley of Kashmir and some other parts of Kashmir, the loudest slogan addressed to India is "Go India, go back, leave our Kashmir." This is what the Kashmiris are saying. And they have declined to accept the illegitimate rule of India in their homeland. This is their message to Delhi and to the international community. The people of Pakistan and Jammu and Kashmir have also not succeeded. So there is a kind of status quo, because the people of Jammu and Kashmir want realization of their right to self-determination, and Pakistan was helping the Jammu and Kashmir people to attain that right. They have also not succeeded, because years ago, in the late 1940s and 1950s, resolutions were passed by the United Nations Security Council mandating that the future, the political future of the people of Jammu and Kashmir would be decided by the people themselves through a referendum which would be conducted under the auspices of the United Nations. India first accepted these resolutions, but then it started backtracking when it realized that it might well lose in that referendum. So since then, it has been trying to perpetuate its occupation of the territory. Since the people are not willing to live with India or to be part of India's political confederation or federation, whatever you call it. Therefore, in order to suppress the voices of Kashmir, India has unleashed terror, unspeakable terror against the Kashmiri people. For the past 71 years, decade after decade, year after year, they have killed Kashmiris ruthlessly. And it is in fact a fascist regime which is operating in Kashmir, whether it was the Congress Party or since 2013, whether it was the BJP-led government. Their rhetoric may be different and their tactics may be slightly different and variant, but the bottom line is that they've been killing Kashmiris. And recently, in the past 1 year, some reports have been published. Some very authentic and authoritative reports have been published. You know, before the publication of these reports, the people of Kashmir and the people of Pakistan in the international fora would talk about massive killings in Kashmir, about torture in prisons, fake encounters, enforced disappearances, arbitrary arrests, persecution of people, rape of women, use of sexual violence against the people of Kashmir, against the women of Kashmir, and so on. But India would dismiss them, those allegations, so-called allegations, that these are facts, in the international fora, saying that this is Pakistan's propaganda and that Kashmiris are cooking up these figures, but they are not really true, and so on. But now the High Commissioner for Human Rights has substantiated all those allegations. And what he says in that report, which was released last year in June, that this is the tip of the iceberg. This is not the full story, because they were not allowed to visit the Indian occupied Kashmir. All they could do was to collect and collate this information through remote monitoring. And then later in the year, last year, in October, the British Parliament also released a very comprehensive report. And in February this year, in the European Parliament, the Human Rights Committee of the European Parliament held a debate, a hearing on the report which was issued by the High Commissioner for Human Rights. Collectively, the hearings and reports demand, one, that the black laws that are being used by occupation authorities should be repealed. Second, that India should put an end to the use of pellet-firing shotguns, which have blinded about 6,000 people. Third, that there should be forensic investigation of the mass unmarked graves, because in Kashmir we use a term, we say that they are half widows. These widows of young men who disappeared, who were forcibly disappeared, and these women do not know whether their husbands are alive or dead. In all probability, they have been killed and their dead bodies have been interred in these unmarked mass graves. So, hence that demand, and also this demand that all the restrictions on the rights to health, education, and freedom of expression should also be lifted, because there is an information blockade in Kashmir. And I was speaking a couple of days ago at Medipol University, and there I highlighted the health problems, serious health problems that the people of Jammu and Kashmir are facing, including mental illness, trauma, anxiety, and post-traumatic syndrome, post-traumatic stress disorder. These are rampant in Kashmir. Now let me come to the second part, as a matter of fact. The issue of Jammu and Kashmir was dramatically highlighted in the aftermath of the Pulwama attack that occurred on the 14th of February this year, because it was under the spotlight, and all the television networks of the world were focusing on Kashmir, India and Pakistan. Why? Not because they have suddenly felt a surge of sympathy for the people of Jammu and Kashmir, but because there was this fear that India and Pakistan might go to war, and that war, a conventional engagement, would spiral to the next level of nuclear engagement, and that would be disastrous not only for India and Pakistan, but also for the entire world. And therefore, the international community wanted to avert a war. There was a war, a small war, a short war. India, on the 26th of February, launched an aggressive attack against Pakistan. The following day, Pakistan gave a fitting but proportionate response to India. It was not retaliation, in fact. It was Pakistan's message to India that yes, we have the capability to match your capability and to retaliate. It was a demonstration of the competence rather than stoking the fire of war or confrontation. So let's look at the nuclear dimension. And this is important to understand that before 1998, if there was a war between India and Pakistan, whether it was the 1948-49 war, or it was the 1965 war, or 1971 war, and part of the war was in the Kashmir theaters, they were devastating. They were very, very debilitating for both countries' economies, and their statehood of both India and Pakistan was shook to the roots. So these conventional wars were quite dangerous. But if a war breaks out after 1998, and the year when India and Pakistan demonstrated their nuclear capability, if there is a war between India and Pakistan, a conventional war, it can escalate to the nuclear level, and it can be very dangerous. Let me tell you why there is this distinct possibility of a war between the two countries. India always threatened Pakistan with extinction. They said that you're not behaving, you are raising the issue of Jammu and Kashmir, and the punishment for you is obliteration of Pakistan. This is what their leader Indira Gandhi said in the early 1970s, and she called it Indira Doctrine, or the academics or political analysts called it the Indira Doctrine. And they said that they would, Pakistan was cut into two parts. One was East Pakistan, the other was West Pakistan. East Pakistan became Bangladesh, and then they said that we will disintegrate the rest of Pakistan also. And therefore, the state of Pakistan would cease to exist. It was against this background that Pakistan started looking for a nuclear armor. And the purpose was defense, not offense. The purpose was to deter aggression of our enemy. And Pakistan acquired that capability in 1998. And now the fact is that India dare not attack Pakistan. because if it attacks Pakistan, there would be a retaliation, and retaliation would be as detrimental to India as to Pakistan. You know, it's a two-edged sword, the nuclear sword, because it cuts both ways. If you launch a nuclear weapon, there would be a retaliation, and so any act aimed at using nuclear weapons is suicidal. It is, in Japanese terminology, you call it harakiri. So, because the punishment that is meted out to the populations is collective. You can't have boundaries when you use nuclear weapons. There is a conventional asymmetry between India and Pakistan. India's conventional forces, arms and armaments, and in terms of numbers, has superiority. Their conventional capability has superiority. We have lesser number of conventional weapons, and the number of our troops is smaller. Pakistan is also one of the biggest armies in the world, but compared to India, it's smaller. So we call it conventional asymmetry. And India is tempted to use, until recently, to use conventional force, superior conventional force against Pakistan. You know, they have been experimenting with different doctrines. One doctrine was cold start doctrine. Then very recently they theorized about the use of surgical strikes. What is a cold start doctrine? Cold start doctrine is that they would mount these massive conventional attacks and hit Pakistan's critical infrastructure and render Pakistan's defense capability incapable of launching a counterattack. So this was their strategy. But then they started experimenting with something called surgical strikes, that their forces would cross the LOC and give a fatal blow to some part of Pakistani forces. The third was standoff attacks from their side, I mean using missiles or something. The third is what they're calling is land warfare doctrine, LWD, which means their hypothesis is that they are facing a collusive warfare situation. And what's that? They think that China and India are enemies, and China and Pakistan are aligned with each other, and they will have to, the Indians will have to fight a two-front war. Now, therefore, I mean, the bottom line here is that they want to use conventional weapons to counteract Pakistan's nuclear capability. That they want to do something below the nuclear threshold. Okay, Pakistan has this very credible, strong deterrent vis-a-vis India. And they want to neutralize it through these doctrines. But let me tell you that this is not possible, because India subscribes to no first use doctrine, which means that they say that we are not going to be the ones who would use the nuclear weapon first. This is hypocritical. In fact, I don't believe that they mean it seriously. But they subscribe to this doctrine. Pakistan has kept its position very ambiguous. And we have retained the option to use the nuclear weapons first for our defense. Right? Now let me tell you that if there is a miscommunication, if there is a conventional engagement, this can escalate to a nuclear level, and this is what is going to happen. This is what is going to happen. One, if there is a nuclear escalation, in fact scientists have calculated that there were two bombs which were used in Japan in the Second World War. In Hiroshima, the bomb that was used had 50 kiloton uranium yield, right? It was called the little boy. The bigger bomb, which was later used as Nagasaki, was called the fat boy. But the little boy was 15 kiloton. So if Pakistan and India, in a limited nuclear exchange, were to use 50 little boys, the blast would unleash a fireball, and people compare the nuclear exchanges to what happened at Chernobyl. At Chernobyl, in fact, some 650,000 people were affected, and some 77,000 square miles of territory were exposed to the radiation. Multiply that by 10 or 20 times, this is what is going to happen if nuclear weapons, tactical nuclear weapons, or strategic nuclear weapons, or even these little boys are used between India and Pakistan. If these little boys are used, I can tell you that the number of casualties will be about 20 million. And then they will have their impact, further impact through radiation. 20 million would die instantly in the most crowded cities in South Asia. And then there would be people who would be exposed to radiation, and they would die slow, painful deaths. Let me also tell you that there would be a nuclear winter, because these fine particles that would be released by these bombs would affect the entire world. This would lead to decrease in temperatures in North America, in Europe, in Asia, all over the world. So it would be, there's a difficult term that is used, but I'm going to use it. Anyway, it is called, this would be a nuclear Armageddon. The biggest catastrophe ever in the history of mankind. People would be exposed to the sun, and there would be more cases of cancer and sunburns. There would be global recession, because Pakistan and India constitute 1/5 of humanity, and their economies, or economies of South Asia, of the surrounding countries that include China, are significant. And if there is a nuclear conflict, there would be erosion of confidence, and that would lead to regional and global economic recession. There would be refugee movements. I mean, the people would be hit in South Asia, and the people, millions of people, would like to go to either Afghanistan, if Afghanistan is safe, or to the Gulf region, or to Central Asia, or to Turkey. There are already many immigrants coming to Turkey, economic migrants who are coming to Turkey. The number would increase to Europe, to North America, to East Asia. They would travel in all directions. So this would be the biggest refugee movement in the history of the world. And so this would be a nuclear Armageddon, as I said. We can avert it. Let me conclude my remarks. We can avert it. How? By resolving the issue of Jammu and Kashmir, by giving back the rights of Kashmiris to them, by involving the international community in not just conflict management, in not just averting a war between India and Pakistan, in not looking at Kashmir through the prism of New Delhi, but by addressing the root cause of the unrest, instability, carnage, massacre and genocide in Kashmir. And that is the denial of the right to self-determination of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. So what I'm saying is that the world has a choice. That India and Pakistan are fighting their nuclear weapons, and they are prone to conflict, and conventional wars escalating to nuclear levels, and they choose to look the other way, or they try to appease India because it's a strategic ally, or you have invested in India and India has invested in your country, or you choose the right thing of redressing the situation in the Indian occupied Kashmir. And this you can do to start with by going back to the drawing board, going back to the United Nations Security Council, where decisions were taken for the ascertainment of the rights of the people of Jammu and Kashmir and ascertainment of the will of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. I'll stop here, and as I forewarned you, I'd be expecting questions from you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the time. Before I open it up to the floor, I just want to pose this question. Since this issue has been going on and off for about 7 decades, how close are we to this nightmare scenario? Since India is not really moving forward in any of these responsibilities that has been set by the UN, by the international community. A lot of leaders have been asking India basically to submit to this plebiscite issue or referendum, or allow the people of Kashmir to decide their fate. Actually, they have been entrenched. Over 700,000, even more troops are in Kashmir. Basically, it's been the most militarized region in the whole world. So they are not really retreating or making it even easier for Kashmiris to live even within an autonomous situation. So if that is the case, and with the present government in India trying to move even further in that direction, and I know that there have been some changes in Pakistan, how do you see this issue progressing, let's say, in the next 5 years or so, and what could the Muslim world in particular and the world at large do so that we can move in the direction of reconciliation and self-determination?
I think every day we are on the brink of a nuclear or conventional catastrophe. It's an existential threat, and this is because of Kashmir. Your second part of your question is whether there is any expectation of hope for the resolution of the Jammu and Kashmir dispute. And I would say candidly, there's none. I shared with you some instances of reports being released by the Office of the High Commissioner or the British Parliament, or a hearing by the European Parliament. But that's about it. The governments, capitals, are tight-lipped about the situation. And the United Nations is not taking a moral political stand that it ought to in regard to Kashmir. It's also silent. So, and why are they silent? Because of realpolitik, they are of expediencies. So we are all, the entire international community is playing with fire by not addressing this situation. You know, there is no indication of political will being used at the international multilateral level, or at the bilateral level, or at the trilateral level to resolve this issue. So this is a tragedy of our times. So what we are trying to say, the people of Jammu and Kashmir, that do not look at Kashmir through the prism of India-Pakistan bilateral access or bilateral confrontation. Look at the plight of Kashmiris directly and make them stakeholders in the resolution of the Jammu and Kashmir dispute. Give them recognition, give them prominence. They are, according to the position taken by Pakistan, the third party to the dispute. Pakistan, India and Kashmiris are the third party to the dispute, and that this third party has to decide its political future. So my answer to your question is, A, we are on the brink of a catastrophe every day, and second, there is no political will at the international level, at the international decision-making level, to resolve this issue. And this is a very dangerous situation.
Okay, it's open to comments or questions. those who would like to address any question, please raise your hand. You can see, start Sahar, and then we'll go.
Okay, my question will seem redundant because I basically just want to ask how again.
Speak up.
I want to ask how exactly will Kashmir be liberated and in what form? So, right, you can see that in India, obviously, they will never accept it as becoming a part of Pakistan. There are a lot of Kashmiris who want it to become independent. And in that scenario, you have Gilgit-Baltistan, which does not want to be a part of Kashmir itself. Like, it wants to be a part of Pakistan. So, and also in addition to that, the resolution itself, it's very unrealistic because it's asking the Pakistani armed forces to retreat first. And what's the guarantee that India is going to hold its side of the bargain? So how exactly, if there is even a resolution reached on it, how will it work out?
Couple of points, and I'm glad you raised them. One is that the United Nations resolutions have not asked Pakistan alone to withdraw its troops. There was this resolution in 1947, Resolution 47, which made that demand, where that demand was rejected by Pakistan's delegation. And India also did not accept that resolution for other reasons, not because of this reason. And there was then mediation done on this question by Canadian permanent representative in 1948, 1949, and ultimately, as a result of a long diplomatic process, Resolution 98 was passed in 1952. In accordance with that resolution, India and Pakistan were asked to withdraw their troops proportionately. The limit for India was 12 to 18,000 troops. For Pakistan, it was 3 to 6,000 troops. So the demand was not addressed only to Pakistan. India accepted this resolution, the 1952 resolution, but then they said that Pakistan should vacate the territory first. And we said, no, thank you, we will do it together, simultaneously. You understand? So this is a lie that has been told by Indian diplomats for the past 70 years, just to mislead everybody. So Pakistan is not required to withdraw troops alone. That is the resolution situation. We deal with Gilgit-Baltistan leadership, their governor and chief minister, and the political parties, and they have never ever said that they would oppose implementation of the UN Security Council resolutions. Never. They want some rights, some basic fundamental rights, the bulk of them which have been given to them in the recent past, and they are very much part of the Jammu and Kashmir family. I mean, I've been talking to their leadership, the ones, even those who've been demanding their, for making demands for their rights. What was the third point that you said that was also significant? India. You said that India is never going to give up that territory. You're absolutely right. This is what they've been trying to do for the past 71 years, right? Have they succeeded in doing that? I mean, they are occupying the territory by force, but they haven't won the hearts and minds of the people. It's an artificial relationship. It's the relationship between the occupier and the occupied, between the colonizer and the colonized. It's a captive territory. And another 71 years would pass and Kashmiris would still not be part of India. So what we're trying to say here is that India should come out of this falsehood that they invented decades ago, and they have not been able to resolve the Jammu and Kashmir dispute by peddling theories about this falsehood. Let me also tell you, I've been saying it to different audiences, compare and contrast their approach and our approach, the approach of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. They're saying that we would use state terrorism, brute force to suppress and subjugate the Kashmiris. That somehow Mehbooba Mufti and Farooq Abdullah and his son, that they would salvage them, and as spokesperson of the Indian occupied territory, or spokesman of the people of the Indian occupied territory, or Mr. Modi goes there and inaugurates a mega project there. But I don't know whether you recall, when he was there in India recently, he was all by himself. Nobody came to greet him. People are angry. So what I'm saying is that they want to use brute force or bribery or political manipulation. But we are saying, come to the negotiating table like this. Let's go back to New York or Geneva or other multilateral capitals where we can have negotiations. First, implement the UN Security Council resolutions, a very simple formula. But if you can't do that, we can use other methods provided for under Chapter 6 of the United Nations Charter. How much time do we have? 10 minutes? I'll be brief in my responses.
Okay, so you know there is a policy, unfortunately, or we can say strategy or method as being implemented in history, which is to specify an enemy outside to make your stability inside. Like when there is a problem, making people's mind busy with outside. So as we know, also I heard whether it's true or not. I think it's true. In India, there is also another groups inside. They want to be independent, and they have a kind of not agreeing the government, this government. So the thing that India is doing, making Kashmiri people or making the Kashmir or Pakistan enemy is just to keep their stability, to keep the nation together. So how do you think that that Indian government will compromise either the Kashmiri people to be independent or be giving their right?
Yes, let me tell you the last year, not last year, last century. There were these colonial powers and there were colonies. Where are the colonial powers today? And where are the colonies? The United Kingdom, France, Spain, Portugal. Where? And you have many independent countries. They attain their independence and freedom, and they're flourishing as proud, self-reliant nations. So what I'm saying is that let's not lose sight of history. Yes, India has designated Kashmiris and Muslims inside India and Pakistan as arch enemies, and they're campaigning against them even in their election rallies, particularly the Bharatiya Janata Party, the ruling party, and its affiliates like Bajrang Dal and Shiv Sena and Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. Yes, they are trying to do that, which goes on to say that the Indian polity is very fragile. But as I was talking to the Honorable Dean a short while ago, I said the rise of Hindu extremism or violent extremism is a threat not only just to Pakistan or Kashmiris, but it's a threat to India and to the entire region and to the entire world, because this is a new form of fascism that is emerging there and taking roots in Indian society. The second thing is, we were talking about the nuclear weapon and nuclear shield. Indian Prime Minister has brandished this nuclear sword. He's challenged Pakistan, he's threatened Pakistan that if you do not behave, he will wipe Pakistan out by using mother of nuclear bombs. A very irresponsible statement, because he said that these are not pyrotechnics that would be used only on the occasion of the Holi or the festive occasion that they have. So what I'm trying to say that you're absolutely right, that India is demonstrating this kind of jingoism and this kind of xenophobia to keep its nation united. But I think that this kind of extremism would further divide India, and this doctrine would be detrimental for it?
My name is Azad. I'm from the occupied Kashmir. So I have many questions to ask, but I think
choose one.
So I have been hearing about Kashmir community in Pakistan. I want to know what they have done so far and what's their strategy, because as a Kashmiri, I don't see they doing anything. I only see some conferences being organized or some seminars being organized on Pakistan, Kashmir Day in Pakistan. Besides that, there is no representation. Like if you ask a common Kashmiri about the Kashmir community which is in the Pakistan, they are not aware about it. And the steps they are taking, we don't know anything about it. So can I ask one more question?
Do it.
Okay. So post 9/11, pre 9/11, the US was like many times saying that we want to be part, we want to be a negotiator between India and Pakistan when it comes to Kashmir. The dispute they wanted to kind of play a role. But post 9/11, you see the scenario has changed. The US has now strategically, it has its interests in India, so India's interest is in avoiding the Kashmir issue, which it has been doing so far successfully. So if you see, when Musharraf was there, post 9/11, Musharraf was there was a very much kind of negotiations were going on between India and Pakistan, and the level of human rights violations in Kashmir were decreasing, and the resistance movement was also kind of settling down, and they were trying to see what's happening, and every Kashmiri was a little hopeful. But then comes 26/11, which happened in India, and the blame was put on Pakistan. So after that, India stopped talking to Pakistan on Kashmir, and which resulted in there was a flashpoint happened, that was the Amarnath Yatra, that they wanted to grab the land from Kashmir. The people rose and the protests were there, many people were killed, and these things happened in 2010, it happened in 2016. And meanwhile, what happens in India that, I want to somehow build the...
This is spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings.
Yes.
This goes back to Wordsworth.
Yeah, I think I deserve this.
You deserve it.
Because it's about Kashmir, so I'm sorry.
That's just our time.
So, meanwhile, what happens in India is the extremist party comes to power. And if US or if UN is listing the extremist elements in Pakistan on the UN terrorist list, I think it's a hypocrisy on the part of UN that the people who are ruling India, they are themselves extremists as of now. I can give an example. The National Security Advisor of India, that is Ajit Doval, he said in one of his speeches that they would want to launch a nuclear war on Pakistan to eliminate Pakistan from the face of earth. He said that India is so big, still India will be able to survive and we will wipe out Pakistan and then Pakistan will be ours. And the same person is right now an advisor, National Security Advisor to Prime Minister of India. So on these fronts, there are many such fronts that Pakistan has completely failed to raise these issues. If a Pakistani National Security Advisor says something like this, it will be all over on the newspapers in the world. Maybe Times, all the newspapers, you name it. Why has Pakistan failed so drastically in creating that perspective among the world powers, among the world power capitals? What's the further strategy and what has been the reason that they have failed? So first question was about Kashmir.
Yeah, of course. It was worthwhile listening to you. You coming directly from Kashmir and you have direct experiences. So I think I have benefited and so have the people present here today. So thank you so much for sharing your perceptions, your thoughts about Kashmir. Kashmir Committee is a small parliamentary committee. And its new chairman is Fakhar Imam. He's a very seasoned politician, and I had a meeting with him, and he's going to activate it. But that said, this committee is not going to resolve the issue of Jammu and Kashmir, because it's the responsibility of the National Assembly as a whole, the Senate, the government of Pakistan. It's a small committee which meets in closed committee rooms or goes to various capitals and forms some recommendations. This committee can't resolve the Jammu and Kashmir dispute, so lower your expectations. Second is that I think that when it comes to mediation, right now we have enormous trust in Turkey. And President Erdogan, when he went to Pakistan in 2016, he addressed the parliament. And in that parliament, he raised the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. He said how he shared the pain of Kashmiris. And when he went to New Delhi, he boldly raised this issue with Narendra Modi. So, and there are many organizations here in Turkey, and many think tanks, who are ready to work on trust building, also humanitarian diplomacy, to help resolve the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. And there are many entities here which are ready to invite all the stakeholders, India, Pakistan, Kashmiris, others from the region. And we, the people of Pakistan, the people of Jammu and Kashmir, full trust in Turkey. So we have to look for friends like Turkey, who can, well, the challenge here is that Turkey, whose relations with India are burgeoning, economic ties, that it should earn trust in Delhi. And when it talks to Indian leadership, they should trust Turkey as an honest broker. I think that ultimately it's the responsibility of the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, to act as a mediator, as a facilitator, or as a catalyst. If he doesn't want to get directly involved, he should appoint a special envoy. Ajit Doval is a fool if he theorizes that he can wipe out Pakistan and some part of India would be saved. He's a fool because he doesn't know ABC of nuclear weapons. As I think that Narendra Modi also doesn't need, he thinks that this is a light weapon that he's holding in his own hand. And because as I gave you graphic detail of what would happen if a nuclear weapon is used. Nuclear weapon is used, 2.5 billion people of the world would be affected directly or indirectly, 20 million would be eliminated instantly. And India alone, I mean, direct casualties and through radiation would be 60 million. In Pakistan, probably 45 million. This catastrophe, and India can't escape it. I said that this radiation would, the fine suited particles of radiation would travel to Japan and to the United Kingdom and to the United States. So he's saying that he would be saved. So these are warmongers, and they want to consolidate their Hindu extremist base. That's all. Last thing that I have, my counsel to you is that when we are in this struggle, in this war of independence, banish the word of failure for Pakistan and for Kashmiris. We haven't failed in 71 years. No power on earth has been able to overpower you or subjugate you. So never ever use the word failure. We will inshallah succeed.
I was asking about actually your
they have light to catch. So I want to thank you very much for being with us today. We certainly hope that you can join us in the future. And I can assure you that the question of Kashmir will always be part of our program. I just would like to give you this departing memento from our center.
There's no particular I mean,
Which part? Start, stop?
yes,
Start, stop?